I was just talking with who I have been calling the Sams. Oh, I remember. That reminds me. The Sams are. I've often used the term vicars of God. They're kind of like a telephone service uh, between us and God. And so what and I'm pretty sure that God is just unknowable, meaning like you can't turn God into an object of knowledge. Now, what I think is so interesting about that is it basically means that idolatry is the closing of a system to the point where everything in that system becomes an object, because including the people that worship whatever the idol is. And an object is anything that is 100% predictable. So, in other words, if I say that everything is made of materia, that material substance, objective physical material substance is, let's say, God, is everything. So that we treat materia as the only unknowable in existence, and that everything else can be known as some derivative or some relationship or some effect, or at the very least is dependent upon materia. So that I end up worshiping it because it's the only thing that makes every decision for me. So, and yet I know nothing about it. Like, I'll sit there and I'll talk endlessly as an empiricist about saying, well, things are real simply because I can taste and touch and see and smell them. Why should I take that prejudicial view? I may as well take any other prejudicial view of saying that the only things that are real are things that I like, or things that are real are things that other people like, or things that are real are things that I believe are true, or things are real if I measure them as such, making myself God. So whatever it is that we choose that is discernible, there's two parts to this. It has to be discernible, right? Because we know that God is indiscernible. We don't have any way of discerning God. We can't say, I speak on behalf of God and I can prove it. We can't say that you speak on behalf of God and that you could prove it. We have no proof. That's one of the major telltale signs of idolatry or whatever. And it's a form of madness or intoxication, because it makes it so that every single decision that someone makes is deferred and dependent upon whatever that is. In a very similar fashion to when I get drunk, every decision that I make defers and depends upon my drunkenness, the alcohol that's in my system, and it makes all my decisions for me. And it's so weird. It's like a state of spiritual drunkenness. And when I say spiritual, I mean like subjective, meaning my intuition itself is bent on this thing. That also happens during addiction. So addiction is a great form of idolatry, because basically it is the thing that is making all of my decisions for me. And it excludes my ability to be independent. So there's that sign, but it's not just that, because you can't say that every addict is going against God. A lot of them believe very fervently in God. In fact, God's really the only thing that you can use to get out of an addiction. So it's not just that. Otherwise, we'd all be in hell and we'd never be able to get out of it. But in addition to that, there is also a closing or an exclusion of any other possibility beyond whatever the system is that is centered on that idol. So that I would be able to judge something without even knowing anything about it. You bring me something and before you even walked through the door, I had already made my decision, because my decision was certain, because my decision fell within the field of influence of this idol, because let's say, for example, we up the ante and we turn the alcohol into a god, and we say, I not only am I an alcoholic, which is bad enough, but at least it's not idolatry, because I still can include the unknowable God in there. And I can say, I don't know everything, even though I'm an addict, and even though my decisions are being made by this alcohol, this other substance, even though that's the case, I can still believe in God and not worship the alcohol, because not every decision that I make is dependent on it. I can still decide on which church I want to go to, what I want to believe, who I want to be when I stop being an addict. I can still dream. I can still form some kind of, change in my life. I'm not a fixed object. But when I get to the point where I say, I already know everything, the only thing that I consider to be real, and the only thing that could ever affect my decisions, and the only thing that I will ever know anything about or treat as if it mattered, was the alcohol. And I mean at the exclusion of everything else. I don't mean at the exclusion of your friends and your family. That's part of being an addict. I mean even further than that. Like when you say, there is no God, I don't believe that I could ever get better. I don't believe that somebody could ever do something to help me. There are exclusions that happen with idolatry that don't happen with addiction. With addiction, that doesn't necessitate that you don't want help. It doesn't necessitate that you don't believe that you can be saved. It doesn't necessitate that you don't believe in God. It just necessitates that you're at least temporarily, unable to make decisions for yourself in some circumstances sometimes. But you wouldn't change your name for it. You wouldn't, claim to be a unicorn because of it. It doesn't drive you completely insane. It doesn't rob you of your sanity to be an addict. So the telltale sign of an addict is of an idol worshiper, is the closed system where everything in their system is rendered as an object, including themselves. To turn oneself into an object and then to take oneself and give of oneself to the idol is idolatry. And that means that the person who once was capable of changing their mind, of learning new things, of giving the benefit of the doubt, especially, of including other people's opinions as possibly true, treating people with a certain amount of respect, as far as like, well, you believe this way and I might not, but I still tolerate you, and I still believe that you're a person, that you have your reasoning behind whatever it is that you believe. Now, I don't agree with it. I didn't reach the same conclusion that you did, but that doesn't mean that your conclusion is automatically false. It doesn't mean that just because I disagree that somehow is proof that can't be true. I don't know everything. And that's another telltale sign of the idolater, is the one that says that I know everything. I already know what's going to happen. I already know what everything is, what everything means. And therefore, if you attempt to change my mind, I will kill you. I'll kill your family. I don't have any problem or any qualms with the destruction of other objects because I've turned myself into one. So I don't care if you're a black person and you don't steal. I'm just going to prejudicially assume that you steal because you're black, and I'm going to render you as an object. All you are is just some skin color. You're just your skin. You're just the objectively measurable phenomena that are usually elicited from you. You're a collection of sounds and noises and tastes and touches and smells that don't mean anything on their own and only have a purpose to serve my idol. That is idol worship. That is a level beyond, hanging a cross in your window. It's a level beyond, facing toward Mecca and praying 5 times a day. It's far beyond that. It's not simple mere infidelity of believing in some other god than someone would want them to believe in. It's not being an infidel, and it's not being an addict, and it's not being insane, and it's not being wrong. It's idol worship is when you render every single thing in existence as an object that is 100% predictable. And it's patently and absurdly false because of, for example, Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You can't even be a materialist anymore because of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. I mean, there's and Gödel's theory of incompleteness. No matter what you look at, no matter if it's math or science or art, there's always something missing from it. It doesn't encapsulate everything. It doesn't have every possible answer about every possible thing in it. Nothing does. There is no such system that exists that can give you a solid, certain answer about absolutely everything, because things are not solid and they are not certain here. I don't think they are anywhere. And if they ever were, then there would not be enough room for there to be any discovery of them. They would just have already remained fixed as such. Not even numbers are like that, because you can doubt their existence too. You can live in a world without numbers. You can live in a world without facts. You can live in a world without all kinds of things. You'd be surprised at how little you require in order to survive and function in the world. You don't need it, but then you worship it anyway, and it makes all your decisions for you anyway, and it excludes any possibility of you ever returning back to sanity because you think you already know the answer. That's idolatry. And you'll see this in people that are intolerant of other things. And that, I think, is the best way of measuring who is an idol worshiper and who isn't, is their intolerance. Now, the type of idol that is chosen doesn't matter. There were Baal worshipers that the Bible goes on and on and on about how evil they were, and all kinds of fucked up things, sacrificing children to the devil and blah, blah, blah. And that still goes on today. And there's also the Inquisition and the Crusades, which turned Christ into an idol, into an object, to say, I know whose soul is going to heaven and I know whose soul is going to hell. That's what the Crusades and the Inquisition did, is they turned Christ into an idol.